Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with Finding Yourself SATX Life Coaching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We're going to be covering Dr. Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents. We're on her last and final chapter before we get to the epilogue. If you like these videos and if they provide value to you, please do like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers. And check out my website. I'm at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There, under the shop section, you can find guided recordings for the 7 different life areas of the balance questionnaire. Those are only $19.99 each. If you prefer, you can contact me through email and I'll send you those PDFs for free. They used to be on the website, but I felt like splitting them up into the separate sections made them a little bit more digestible. And then we added that valuable content by guiding you through it as well. Even if you purchase all of the guided life balance questionnaires and then you're ready for your first free consult, it's still free of charge, so that won't ever change. Check out my site, give me a call. If we've never talked before, I'd be happy to talk with you. Without further ado, I will get into Dr. Gibson's Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents. Okay, so we're going to talk about mature communication. Mature communication keeps your interactions real. Keeping interactions real means you use clear, intimate communication to tell the other person in a non-attacking way what you are feeling and thinking and what you truly want. Clear, intimate communication is not rude or confrontational. It neutrally states your experience and does not blame, interpret, or threaten. You're not trying to change them. You're just telling them how their behavior affects you. You are communicating clearly how the relationship is going for you, and thereby making it safe for them to open up as well if they want to. By being transparent about your inner experience, you participate honestly in the relationship and let yourself be known. Things immediately get more real between you. To have a more genuine relationship, express yourself. Telling EIPs and EI parents how something made you feel is a giant step toward being loyal to yourself. By staying in touch with yourself and relating to them as a co-equal, you change the terms of your relationship. Your interactions become more emotionally intimate and genuine, even if only from your side. Every time you speak up, in whatever uncomfortable or hesitant way you can manage to do it, you bring about more meaningful communication and pull the relationship out of stagnating in superficiality. Your self-expression demonstrates your equal status. When you speak up, you're showing equal status to the other person. By expressing yourself, you are saying that what goes on inside you is just as important as what goes on inside the EIP. Thus, you don't let EI hierarchies form. Ask them to listen to you. If you get upset with an EIP about something and can't manage to say anything at the time, you can always go back to them later and ask if they'd be willing to hear you out. Tell them you have some thoughts to share and ask if they'll give you 5 minutes. The 5-minute limit is important because emotional intimacy makes them so nervous. If they agree, relate your experience by describing their specific behavior, how it made you feel, and ask what they were intending. Use skillful, non-judgmental communication instead of confrontation. Fortunately, we know a lot now about what kinds of communication promote positive outcomes under stressful circumstances. Productive communication styles are honest, non-judgmental, neutral in tone, and empathetic to the other person's viewpoint. Let's look at the kinds of communication styles that are likely to work best with EIPs and EI parents. Non-complimentary communication. This style of communication, described by Professor Hopwood, responds to angry or aggressive behavior in an unexpectedly calm and empathetic way. The surprise of its kindness often derails hostility or attempts at dominance. When the upset person encounters curiosity and sympathy instead of a counterattack, the inevitability of conflict is turned upside down. To use this approach, you respond to the EIP's hostility with empathy, as if they were looking for understanding rather than a fight. By discerning their deeper emotional desire for connection, you interpret their unpleasant behavior as a cry for attention and acceptance. Sometimes the surprise of an empathetic response transforms a belligerent situation and instead allows something creative, meaningful, and connecting to take place. Non-defensive and non-violent communications. Non-defensive and non-violent communications are methods of dealing with people in ways that don't attack, humiliate, accuse, or shame. The goal of these methods is to listen without becoming defensive while still knowing what matters to you. Non-defensive, non-violent communication keeps you out of the polarizing aggressor-victim positions of the drama triangle. You recognize that the other person's viewpoint makes perfect sense to them. At the same time, you talk about your intentions in a way that doesn't challenge their worth. By responding non-defensively, you don't trigger an aggressor-victim drama triangle. You make the other person feel like it's safe to keep communicating. Sorry, Earl was trying to get back in, so I let him in. I listened to the video from last time and I could hear him meowing in the background, and so I was contemplating in my mind, do I let him keep meowing the whole video or do I let him in? Anyway, sorry to derail. When differences cause conflict. Now, let's look at how to handle unavoidable disagreements. How can we handle boundary violations or unacceptable actions and still have the best possible relationship? Set boundaries and say no. In any relationship, refusals and boundaries are necessary to protect your well-being. You don't have to make excuses or give explanations. You can just say, "No, I really can't," or "That won't work." Unlike normally sensitive people, however, EIPs make it hard to refuse them. They may question your refusal by saying things like, "Why can't you do it?" Or they might try to problem solve your decision, saying, "Well, couldn't you do it if you," followed by a suggestion. No reasonably polite person would keep on like that, but EIPs act like your time belongs to them. If they still persist after you refuse, you can say, "Do you need me to give you more reasons? I'm afraid I can't." Or just give them a helpless shrug. Accept only as much as you want. EIPs are often generous in ways that make you feel trapped and obligated. They focus on what they want to give, regardless of whether you want it. For instance, EIPs and EI parents may give gifts they would like to get, insist on get-togethers you don't enjoy, plan unwanted activities, or repeatedly offer you help you just don't want. Just as children keep begging with "again, again," EIPs don't sense that other people may be tired or not enjoying an activity as much as they are. If you don't make a fuss about what they are offering, they act like you're being rude and deliberately hurting their feelings. But of course, this is untrue. You have the right to say, "That's all," or "That's enough," about anything. Same for "no more" or "I wish I could, but no thanks." After that, it's up to them to handle their feelings. And lastly, don't reward regressive behavior. EIPs and EI parents will often sulk or act wounded, prompting you to rescue them. If you jump in to pacify them, you are encouraging more regressive, guilt-inducing behaviors. The important thing is to realize that there's no blame, shame. She gave some examples and I skipped over them. But in these examples, there was no blame, shame, and no attempt to change the parent's emotion. The parents are given autonomy to have their own feelings and make their own choices. They can go along or they can get upset, but they're offered options. And lastly here, I think I said lastly before, so don't reward regressive behavior or sulking. Don't reward the sulking. State your boundaries and then don't try to convince them to be happy about your boundaries. Just state them. And then express anger clearly, directly, and with respect. So while calm interactions are ideal, there are times when anger feels necessary. An EI parent's stubbornness can be very hard to take, especially when there's been a long history of dominance by this parent. But your anger can be expressed in a respectful, non-abusive way. I was going to try and skip this example, but I think I can't. Bethany's story. Bethany began her session one day by announcing, "I blew up at my dad today." It turns out her elderly EI father, Levi, had berated the staff at his nursing home yet again, yelling at them for small oversights as if he were at a 5-star hotel. Now, several of the aides were threatening to walk off his case. Bethany had had enough of the phone calls about her father's behavior. She needed him to understand the seriousness of the situation. She confronted Levi with the facts by reminding him that if he kept this up, he might get kicked out and end up in a much less nice place. Which is true. He had limited funds and had been lucky to find the place he was in. Bethany reminded him that the staff had tough jobs and were people too. She told him she was tired of always having to patch things up for him and that he should think of others for a change. "I'm exhausted," Bethany told him. "You have to think of what all this is doing to me. What are you going to do if I'm dead? Show some gratitude, Dad. Take the burden off me. You know how to be nice, so do it." Bethany didn't shame or abuse Levi. She communicated forcefully what she needed him to do. Levi was of sound mind, so he wasn't excused from decent social behavior, even at this late date. He didn't like his circumstances, but Bethany didn't like hers either. For Bethany's own health, she needed to tell Levi to make an effort and stop creating more work for her. This confrontation didn't change Levi's personality, but it opened a moment of clarity and clear, intimate communication between them. To Bethany's amazement, her father later apologized. They became, for the moment, two adults working something out between them. So this is not part of Dr. Gibson's work. It's actually Dr. Gottman's work, John Gottman. I have another playlist covering What Makes Love Last. It's a phenomenal work. If you get a chance to check out that playlist or even grab that book, it's totally worth it. But in that work, he talks about how to resolve conflicts. And I think I've referenced it in a few of the videos, but I'll do so again. So in a lot of Dr. Gibson's tips, she's telling us how to kind of sidestep the emotionally immature person for the sake of peace, for the sake of not engaging, and because you don't necessarily want to confront them. But if you want to confront someone about their emotional maturity or how they made you feel or just any conflict, Dr. Gottman has a formula that works tremendously well. And that formula is essentially, when you did XYZ, it made me feel ABC. It made me feel a particular way. Gottman also says you have to take ownership. No matter what the conflict is, you have to take ownership. And it can't be taking ownership in some passive aggressive way that throws it back on them. So I can take ownership in that ABC, whatever it was. In the case here, I can take ownership, Dad, in that in the past I've always been willing to play middleman for you. And just try really hard not to criticize or do anything in these statements that would cause the other person to become defensive. So when you said ABC, it made me feel XYZ. I can take ownership in that this. What I need from you, or what I needed from you, if the conflict is gone, right, they can't go back and change time or do something differently, you can state what you needed from them. And if they can still do something differently, you can state what you need from them. What I need from you or needed from you was this, and this. Dad, what I need from you is to be nicer to the staff and treat them as human beings. So Dr. Gibson and Dr. Gottman are in line with this, but he just has this formula where he really helps you come to somebody and talk to them to where they don't necessarily feel defensive. And I highly recommend that. Please do check out that playlist, get that book. It's called What Makes Love Last by John Gottman. I know today's a little bit of a longer video, but if you like these videos, please do like and subscribe, and check out my website, www.findingyourselfsatx.com. Please begin your journey today. For $19.99, you can start changing your life. Take care, y'all. We'll talk on Monday. Bye-bye.